You are listening now to the Spirituality Now podcast, the show that is solely focused on practical spirituality, leadership, and mindset skills with the aim and purpose of supporting you master your life. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. I am your host with apparently a very interesting voice today. This is, I'm in the perfect podcast with a perfect guest because this is so live. And I just, I was talking well before and suddenly my voice decided to go a little bit like, I don't know how you say it. But anyways, with that said, I think this podcast, it was needed. It's a podcast I have been wanting to share a perspective, give a voice to the current situation that situations instead of situation, multiple situations that not only are going on in the world, always, I get a lot of backlash of people saying, there's always something going on in the world, so why do you care? Exactly because all the things that are going on in the world, and exactly because in this incarnation, at this time, on this year, 2023, I am existing in the situations happening now. Perhaps my body was not here when World War I was happening, when all genocides were happening before. Right now we have a lot of genocides happening too. But I care. And I don't know anyone that cares as much and as deeply, as detailed, and as informed. This is what I want to say. This is going to be the bio. My guest has come here several times because of her skills and the way she helps people with the topics that are so misused nowadays of trauma, of maturity, and of this very powerful and needed word called boundaries. And you can hear, we will put a link to the previous podcast if you want to listen to her, because we responded a lot of questions from the Latin American community. It's in English, and I think that will give you a whole scope of our guest. But today we're here to talk about the situations in plural, Gaza, Palestine, United States, probably. I don't know how long. We have a limit.
And let's not forget Congo, Sudan,
The Congo,
Afghanistan, Venezuela. Right now, there's people horribly displaced, without homes. Just humanitarian crises on a level that we've never had the connectivity to know about and to share as a collective humanity.
Exactly. And so with that said, this is my guest, my beautiful friend, Shanti Zimmerman. And we're just going to talk about like a conversation, because, when it's challenging to even use the word topics, because then you objectize the situation, and the situation is not an object. It's a happening that is occurring it's impacting us all. It may not be, I was sharing yesterday that with other people, that it may not be happening in your land, in where you live, at your job, but the situation eventually is going to reach you, because it's going to create, literally, not metaphorically, not spiritual bias kind of lingo, a wave. It's going to reach us all. I am a believer that the attack of one is the attack of all. Like if you kill a children, it's the children of all of us. I'm very much based on the villa, we're all a village principle. And I noticed that that's disappearing. So Shanti, we'll just go in conversation and starting about, this humanitarian crisis that we have. Let's explain to people, why is this a humanitarian that pertains all of humanity crisis?
Because at least in the West, in our Western culture, we have the delusion that this hyper individuality, the delusion of hyper individuality, like this doesn't affect me. And we've been brought up with that, for generations. And it's absolutely and utterly false, because we are all being affected by all of things, whether we are consciously aware. I use Congo or Sudan or Venezuela or Afghanistan, because those are things that are not up in our face in the media that you actually have to go and seek education on. So let's say that you don't have any idea that those things are happening in the world. It still affects you in ways that you can't articulate. And I always say, we're in this together. The same air that I breathe here in Switzerland is the same air you're breathing in Las Vegas. At some point or another, it's the same air. And the idea that we can compartmentalize ourselves out of caring about others, I mean, the root of that is that in the West, we've been taught that we don't matter, but given a hyper-sensitized idea that we're better than everybody else. It's very, very confusing. And that causes an internal violence that is then played out as an external violence against each other.
Oh, talk to me about, let's expand on this internal violence that expands into the world. That is so true. This is the first time I heard you, articulate this in this way. What does that look like? How does it look like in myself, or how does it look like in the people that we all are in this, right? Whether
it's
we
internalized. I'm just getting how it is. It's a form of internalized hatred. For many reasons, and we can go. You can pull apart the roots of it, but if we don't, it doesn't matter where it came from to me. It matters how do we move forward from it, right? Where we came from can be a dissertation of 25 days, how we got there. And because there's an internalization of like, I'm not good enough, I don't have value, I have to earn my place in the world. I have all these things that happen, especially in the Western world. We lose sight of being able to pause. I'm talking about skill sets now. Pause. To be able to respond and not react when something feels intense. We don't have the skill sets. We're not taught the skill sets because we are the dominating culture to slow down, to be responsible, to take ownership for what it is we are experiencing. And because we don't have these skill sets as a value in our cultures, reactivity is the habit we've been taught. It is also normalized. It is also perpetuated ad nauseum in every direction, in every system.
I'm making notes of everything like this, and it's quite perturbing, what we are experiencing. And why do you think that people? Let's go before we're going to go into the skill sets, right? We are because we got to give something. I think practical for the people listening to this podcast, that they can focus on developing, strengthening, reaching out for support. I know you teach people how to develop this, and that skills are, we can learn them no matter what is the background, no matter what the belief.
Well, I want to reiterate, because we are talking about horrific humanitarian crises and people who are in actual violent situations, that the work that I teach will do none of those people any good.
Exactly.
This is not.
We'll talk about who is this for. Like, I think it's for people like me or something, that we can help those people, but it's not going to heal or anything. But we'll talk about that. But let's talk about this. What do you think people are in avoidance mode sometimes? Because I feel compassion too, because sometimes people don't have the information. You and I were talking about it. People don't know what's going on. The clash of what they think it was and what is, it truly is creating we were talking about collective trauma yesterday, right? And so why is there
access to the things that we have on the internet, the access that we have? So in this one particular, it is in everybody's minds and hearts and beings right now, because it is what everyone is seeing. That's a collective trauma that we've never had access to. Right? By access, meaning all of us experiencing it at once. There's those people that are in their bodies in real time experiencing it. And then there's people who watch it as it happens. And that's never been possible in our humanity, in our human history, ever. And it opens wounds across, there's no borders to the wounding. There's remembering, and there's wounds opened for everyone. And then there's the current realization of what life actually means and what life actually is, because we are so faced with truly horrific, tragic death that feels in my body, and I'm thinking in a lot of people's bodies, like it's 1000% preventable and unnecessary.
Wow. Preventable and unnecessary. And I think we're going to be talking about skills, and we're talking about care, right? And boundaries. How will something like that? I mean, we're talking about Gaza, Palestine, beside Congo, Venezuela, so many things going on in Mexico, so many things going in South America, Latin America, the Amazons. It's incredible what is really unfolding in our world, that we have been trained by social media or groomed by the white privileges, etc., into avoiding, or that word, like normalizing horror. It's like, it just blows my mind that it is not normal. Why is not normal? Being proud to send your kid to the war to be killed is not normal, right? All the horrific things, the children in the war, I'm still, I have been obsessed about that. Everybody talking about everything. What happened to those children? Where are they right now? In the United States, all of that. But with Gaza, Gaza, it really, it's really touching my heart, and not touching, it's wounding, right? That the word. But what do you think?
Well, I think one of the reasons it's so rough right now is because the underlying narrative for many, many, many years, this was normal. And more people are aware today than they were, say, even 30 years ago about trauma, like what it actually is. And you start to go, even if we today had an immediate ceasefire, what the hell? Like, how does this get restored? It doesn't. And we all know that to some degree. And it feels, I know I sit continuously in the feeling of helplessness and that I can't do anything. And I choose to remain witness. And I choose to value every life. I do not take sides. I can understand the complications of the geopolitical bullcrap, intellectually, right? In my mind, in my brain, where the West likes to put a lot of emphasis and importance. But I cannot deny, and I never will apologize for the response of my body and my nervous system that knows it is categorically wrong. And every single life matters, even the lives of, like, the people in my life that I don't like. I still want them to have what I believe every human wants, which is safety, shelter, food, water, and to be with the people that they love. And that shouldn't be denied to anybody. And I think that sentiment is clashing with, no, you have to take a side. That a side is a necessary thing to take. I won't. I stand for every human life matters.
I love that. I love that. And we were talking about, I love this, that you and I were in the conversation of where are the activists, right? And a lot of the things I've heard, especially from very well-known people that have least, some of them, I'm just out of respect, I'm not going to mention them, but that they are like uh, kind of condemning. Where are the activists? When they are needed? We don't see them anywhere. They are not taking a side. They are not they're not taking a side, either Palestine or Israel. They are not. It's just crazy. It's just crazy, the amount of ignorance, or the amount of lack of preparation of a theme, or a really touchy aspect of that humanity right now is experiencing. And the activists, you said something yesterday, and let's expand on that. You say, well, the activists, those who are in activism, really caring for Earth, are really busy. So let's bring that. So to bring some compassion and to bring some understanding, for me, that was incredible, because I was like, of course, this is new on Earth. So talk about that. Where are the activists?
They're busy. They're head down. They're on the ground. They've been doing this for many, many years. They're tired. They're, some of the questions people ask. I mean, the activists right now are people on the ground, sharing from their private accounts, press on the ground. And people ask him, well, I thought there wasn't any food, and I saw you eating a piece of bread. Like the callousness that is in the privileged population of the planet is beyond. So these activists are tired. They don't give a fuck about whether you are seeing the work that they're doing. They're head down, they're helping, they're traveling, they're fundraising, they're the ones that are standing at the border trying to get these trucks to go through. There's tons of them, and they don't care whether you see them or give them a pat on the back. They're working. They have their heads down, and they've got their skin in the game.
I love that. Yeah, because that's activism. You don't care if you are seen or not. You care for humans, right? You care for humans. And so we were talking about this, and I had so much compassion and desire to support that, right? Desire to, maybe I cannot support the fact that all the things that the bombs, and which I wish I could, right? Any human that cares wishes to be able to stop the bombs, the war, re-educate, retrain the people.
If there was like one fell swoop where every weapon became incapable of being a weapon, I would have done that. I would have done that when I was 5 years old.
Yeah, there's a Buddhist, and I don't want to do a spiritual bypassing here, but there is a Buddhist teaching. It's a metaphor for what we are able to do as humans if we cooperate with one another. That any weapon that could be for mass destruction, what mystically, alchemically, in the mind, okay? This is not literal, everyone. But what you do is with your skills, that we're going to talk about, the ones that Shanti offers, caring for others, serving others, genuinely caring for how are you, how are we, how can we make each other, how can we make these lives better for one another without stepping into each other's, fields. And there's all the tools that they use in Buddhism, like the Vajra, the bells, I don't know the names. But that they say that those tools that now people use for meditation, and it's a metaphor again, it's not literal. It used to be a weapon, so let's say that the Buddha or Rinpoches or something will come, and with their powers, it's all a metaphor, okay? They will turn the weapon that could destroy someone into something useful that could support everyone. Again, this is a metaphor of what we are capable of doing if we genuinely serve one another and care each other. So we were talking about...
I think here I want to interject that...
Yes.
I think what this also brings really to the surface for a lot of people is this ideology of that we have control, which we do not. We do not have control over, that doesn't mean we don't have influence, but we don't have control over what's happening in the world. Outside of ourselves, we don't have control. There's influence, yes, but there's no control. And this idea that lack of feeling control leads to a feeling of not being safe, leads to reactionary behaviors, and so forth. But what I want to offer people is, while we cannot, and nor do I have control over another person's behavior or what they do and the choices that they make, but I have absolute choice over how and what I think about what's happening and how I choose to relate to what is happening, how I choose to be, the actions I choose to take, the words I choose. I have choice there. I do not have choice. If I had choice, none of this would be happening. If I had choice and control, if I had control and choice over what the world is doing, it wouldn't be this. But I can fully be present to my own self, making sure that I am thinking in a way that connects me to other people, that connects me to the humanity that we all have, that is not a stunted, numb, disabled humanity.
Mm. Wow.
I want to be alive in that humanity.
Yeah. Yesterday you said that there is part of our humanity that is crippled, right?
And then I realized, I'd like to correct, that this is not a word we could use anymore. It's a very offensive word to disabled people. So I would retract that and just say it's a disability. We've become, it's broken. Let's go to like the actual core of it. That our connection to the humanity inside of all of us, that is connected to every single other person on the planet, has been stolen, trampled on, wounded, afflicted, traumatized. And the callousness with which people will treat each other because you don't take a side, that to me is more terrifying, because it spreads this self-hate into other hate, which continually perpetuates this ideology that war is a natural, normal thing. It is not. It is not.
And talking about trauma, we were talking yesterday, you and I, about how trauma, it is happening collectively, whether we notice it or not. And that the healing, and there's, for you and I understand that there's no healing from the trauma. There's going to be a new skill set to operate with that. We have to live with it. My daughter that literally almost died physically, from anorexia. One day she was asked, "Oh, so you recovered?" And she said, "No. What I do is every day that I wake up, I have to make a choice to deal with that in the best way of my ability." She said, "I didn't heal." Actually, that was my daughter. And she was really young when she answered that. And I will never forget it, that she said, "No, no, I have to, every day I still battle that. I'm not recovered. I just have a new, I get skill or choice. And I have to make the choice to every day, like battle with that in a different way. Live my
Well,
life."
I'd like to take the word battle out. And, as we talked about yesterday, that I'm removing this war language as if it's this normal way to speak. I see it as navigating what I carry. I have to navigate my trauma every day of my life.
Yes.
And I have to navigate new trauma as it happens.
Mm.
And if you have childhood, right, and that is where we don't have skill sets in the modern world, right? Of, I'm traumatized today by this thing that I've seen, and how do I navigate that trauma so it doesn't get stuck in my body, right? And doesn't mean it goes away, but that I can navigate it and still live a life of being a mother and being a wife and having chickens and all the things that I do, on top of the work that I do.
Love that. And for these, collective trauma, whether people feel it or not, that is going on. You say I have my notes here, that there needs to be like kind of the collective coming to support in this understanding of this trauma instead of individually based. Like right now, I just love that you said, even though I'm super aware of my language, I'm part of this programming of the words in overachieving world, in what we think is leadership, which is the opposite of what leadership is, right? And the word battle comes out, and the word like, "Oh, I'm going to war, I'm going to kill it, I'm going to hustle," and we are not aware that that's even, the programming that is causing these situations. So, how do we help each other navigate and serve these trauma, earthquakes, tsunamis that is
I'm going to tell you, I don't really know. That's the truth. I don't know. I have ideas, but I don't know. I have, I think that's the part about feeling help with, I have worked with for individuals and in small groups, but not like nothing even remotely close to anything that we could call like a collective, ginormous thing. But I think that is what is needed, that we begin to realize that trauma does not happen in a vacuum. It's not just happening in each individual person's life. That everyone on the planet today has experienced displacement at some point in their lineage. And there's a lot of unmetabolized grief about that circumstance, and the forgetting and the remembering, right? Like, okay, I've thought I could live my life as this very independent Western, hyper independence. I can take care of myself, do it, pull yourself up. And then your humanity seeps through because you can't get rid of it. Right? This humane sense of looking at the world that like everyone matters. And until the least of us or the lowest of us in this whatever dynamic we're in is free and has access to, shelter and safety and water and food, none of us are actually free. And that's not just a cliche or some kind of weird, strategy or tactic or marketing thing. It's actually true. And having to come to terms with that as like a fact of being a human being and not having answers of how to make it happen can be frustrating.
I love this. I'm just jumping in and out because these conversations are hard to have to have. I have no background. Of course, I'm studying what's going on in the world, trying to have a more education, right?
Yeah.
To
I think
live
that's
the
where a lot of people are right now, and it's a good place to be.
Yeah, but so I'm shifting timelines or jumping from one thing to another because I don't have a full scope scenario. Neither my nervous system is settled on this. It's I'm caring. I'm thinking of the children. I'm thinking of everyone involved, including what people name the bad guys. I wonder what was their childhood. I wonder what was all the terrors and things that they witnessed to be doing these things.
It's the question that I hold constantly is what happened? What happened to you?
That's it. What happened to you? But you said something, and I wrote it down here that that reactivity, how we are reacting in the world, is an habit we've been taught. I, it, how have we been, of course, in our perspective, in the way that we have experienced it? How is that being taught? Because that's, we hear often people don't react.
Well, let's look at like just something that you hear like across the board. You're making me so mad. You're annoying me. You irritate me. That's a reactionary saying this other person is responsible for the way that I feel. And it's in our languaging and it's been there for a long time. Instead of I feel irritated, I feel angry. Let me, own that. So there's a list of skill sets that I sent you that I felt were really important, but one of them is pause, right? Like the skill set of pause and respond counter the learned habit of reactivity.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So, and I teach these skill sets, they're non-linear. So when you start applying a skill set of pause, you start applying a skill set of respond, and it will start to move in all kinds of areas for you. But the pause is simply you feel an intense reaction to life and you pause. You stop, you slow down, you just pause. And you might have to sit and hit that pause, internal pause button like 100 times because it's so intense. And you pause long enough to find yourself before you even begin to respond. And this sounds simplistic and it takes time and time over. So for me now, the distance between my pause and my response is almost negligible for me to notice because I've had a lot of time on practice. Time on task and practice. A lot. Pause. Own what I'm feeling. Pause. Do not speak. Hold your mouth closed. Pause. Pause. Do not send that email, right? Pause. Do not pick up the phone. Somebody's talking to you. It's heightened. Pause. Just wait a minute. Pause. It's a skill set that you have to practice. It's not just going to happen to you. It's not, you can't just like wish it into yourself. You have to, even if you got to grit your teeth, even if you got to do whatever you have to do, you pause. You pause. Responding means whatever reactionary experience I had has happened in the privacy of my own being. So I'm allowed to be reactive, but it's happening in my awareness to only me, not to other people, not externally. So in the privacy of my own being, I can have every reaction I want because nobody's going to see it. It harms nobody. It means that I've had that reaction. I've paused. I've gotten to understand myself in that moment. And only then do I respond. Only then. I don't respond from an intense feeling just to discharge the feeling, just and put that onto somebody else. That's not my right, although we have been taught that's our right to do that. That's how we harm other people. That's how we legitimize it. Well, this thing makes me feel this way, and therefore I am allowed to react like this. That is my right. Instead of, I'm feeling some kind of way about this, man. And pausing and being with myself, holding myself in this deep care of like, I got you. What you're feeling is valid. Don't let it come out of your mouth. That's being an adult. That's being willing to be mature.
That's mature.
And that is just, there are two skill sets. Pause. And then when I respond, I'm responding from a place of knowing exactly what I'm doing. I'm not like screaming things that might hurt somebody else or be harmful in any way. I'm not, lashing out with my body because I'm in full choice of how I'm responding. Pause gives me choices. Reaction, I don't have a choice at all. But I will still be responsible for the consequences of that reaction. So when I'm able to pause and respond, before I even respond, I have taken full responsibility for what it is I'm about to say or do. Because I'm aware and I'm present to what's happening inside me.
And that obviously, is a consistent practice. To kind of, I'm practicing it as you are sharing it, the pause and slowing down. And I love that you said the pause gives me choices, reactivity gives me none, right? And I can feel it. I can feel it physically. I can feel the my chest, I can feel my stomach. I can feel, but I love that you said in the privacy of my own being. This is the first time ever I heard that. And just like we want our privacy of like, I don't want people to hear this, I don't want people to see me in the shower. I don't. This makes so much sense to have this skill, to have this option, to have this choice of like, you also have the privacy of your own being, where you can do all of these, do the pause and everything, and avoid.
You can have a tantrum, you can have a fit, you can call people whatever the fuck you want in the privacy of your own being. It doesn't leave you. It's not causing harm in the space. The only place you can't, I always tell people though, I have a caveat for that, which is in the privacy of your own being, the one thing that is forbidden is to be mean to yourself. And there's a whole lot of skill sets that help that, care being one of them and rest being one of them. Many people, when I talk about the skill set of rest, it's really important right now, especially for people who are highly active. I'm not talking about, although it's just as important to like rest your body, right? Rest your body and take those pauses for yourself. But the skill set of rest is being able to, again, with practice and over time, pause the mental chatter that spins you into dysfunction. To go, I'm just going to rest my mental capacity right now. I'm just going to, it could happen right now. I'm talking to you and I just look out the window and I allow it to, I don't have mind chatter right now, but if I did, to just kind of fade, it will be there. Nobody has to be afraid that they can't pick that shit back up. Like, that's not a problem. But being able to even be in an intense situation and rest mentally, that's a skill set that's super important right now. Being able to consume more information than our nervous systems were ever evolved to consume and rest. And let it move to the side for a minute and rest. These are really important in times like now and with social media. You can even be scrolling and resting. So it's just a practice.
It's a practice. So we have the skills. We're talking now really for everyone just to know, and I know that a lot of people that listen to this podcast like to take notes of the skill sets for the times that we're currently living. And the first one that Shanti sharing with us, again, remember, they're non-linear, right? But the skill set of pause and respond, she's just mentioning the skill set of mental rest, right? Which we can still be active, as you said, you can still be scrolling, you can still be, and still resting, right? And I want to speak about, because this is one of the things I see the most happening right now. One of the ones that I'm actually, using pauses, being alone a lot, sleeping a lot as much as I can in this world, on this side of the Western world where the word hustle seems to be like something that puts you in a pedestal of like you are making it, which is the opposite of. But the skill set of deconstructing blame, shame, and guilt, Shanti, because that's it's hard to watch people blaming, judging, thinking they have the right to judge, which is comes from ignorance, right? I'm
Well,
not.
let's be careful because I also teach judgment, discernment, and judgment as skill sets.
The
So
word discernment will come here. So just talk to me about that, because right now it's like you don't know what people are doing, if they are doing it to because they don't know, right? They don't know.
it's 100% people don't know. Like what I'm about to say about blame, shame, and guilt. It, to me makes sense because all of my work comes from a living experience that I am in, right? This work is the work that I do every single day. It is the way that I can navigate the world with trauma, complex and compound childhood trauma. It comes from my experience. So it doesn't seem strange to me because it's something I've been doing for a very long time. But I will tell you that blame, shame, and guilt are 100% and completely unnecessary habits of thinking and narratives we've inherited. They are not like anger or happiness or fear or joy or any of the innate emotions that every human being has. They are not that. Blame, shame, and guilt are an indoctrination that we have been told is important. And what they do is they allow rapid behavior modification through manipulation.
Wow.
You teach a kid how to feel shame, and you can modify their behavior pretty quick. You teach a kid guilt, you can modify their quick. You teach a kid, you blame a child, so they're wrapped up. I call them triplets. Their signatures are similar, different, but very, very similar because they come from the same source, which is rapid behavior modification. And they were created about 5,000 years ago. They did not exist in the human experience prior to that. And there's all kinds of people that like study shame and all this stuff. And I'm like, damn, what a waste. I mean, it's great. Okay. But it's really not necessary. And that we hold on to shame as a thing that we should experience, that shame is a good thing. Right. And my question to everyone, look, if I say something that's trash, you throw it in the trash, but explore for yourself the next time you feel shame, or the next time you feel really guilty, or the next time you feel like you want to blame somebody reactionary. Pause for a minute and feel that all the way down to the root of it and find out if that does you any good at all. Find out if any moment of shame or guilt or blame has brought good into your life, into your world, has helped you build character, whatever the things are that are valuable to you. Has it brought those forward? Don't believe what I'm saying. Check it out for yourself. And the first thing is because these feelings are so unnatural, they're synthetic in our bodies, and they're so painful because they have to do with ostracization and manipulation and manipulation for care, and we've been neglected, all those things. You have to find the signature of it so that you can explore it yourself. And that's time on task and practice. Now, if you have time on task and practice over a long period of time, eventually you can start swiping left on it. Oh, you're like, oh, here's shame. I don't need this. And you can swipe left. And in a short period of time of doing that, you will not have the experience of being shame. Like I always tell people, nobody can shame me, not even myself. I don't play anymore. It's a construct that is just not. And the biggest fear when I talk about this is people are like, well, then how, am I going to become a psychopath? Because we have been taught that blame, shame, and guilt keep us from being bad people. Bullshit. Blame, shame, and guilt lead to absolute and utter violence 100% of the time. If it's not violence externally, it's violence towards yourself.
Wow.
Sorry, I could talk about this for a
No, I think of course, I'm going to invite you back again just to talk about this one. Just this one. I know there's other skill sets, and I know we have a limited time today on the podcast. We have a couple of more minutes now, but I think this one that can help so many people understand.
Well,
Uh,
it's really important though that this one is never taken by itself because it's
exactly.
because
It is
the
with the support of
yes,
the
the
others.
nature of blame, shame, and guilt is a loop, right? A hook, a back hook. And so this particular skill set requires the very first skill set I teach in everything that I do, which is care.
Care, and then the skill set of grief, right?
That
We
comes
have
after. They're the triplets, yeah. And
I
they
want to mention them right very quickly. So just for you all to write it down, and you can always reach out for Shanti. We will put all of her
the
information.
thing
But
that I sent you, you can put that also underneath the thing that
oh my gosh, okay.
very
So
brief
we're going to put the skill sets on the copy. You're going to have it. We have the skill set of pause and respond, of mental rest, of deconstructing blame, shame, and guilt, which it blows my mind that just the question to myself, did I know that these were unnecessary? It's like, and then the skill set of care, the skill set of grief, and the skill set of nuance and complexity, right? And ownership and responsibility. And we will put them on the podcast, but I want to say, these skill sets, I really feel, I myself, I'm going through each of one of them without having to rush these. These will lead, do you think that when we practice these skill sets and begin to hone them and building in ourselves, could these lead us to something that we spoke about yesterday, to collective activism?
I would hope so, but I can't tell you for sure. I know in me it has, right? I know in me, but the thing is, we can't jump there. In a sense, it feels like it's very urgent that we should, but we can't because these skill sets are time on task and they have to develop. Like, there's people, very few, but there's a handful of people who've taken the work that I've done and not done time on task and then tried to catapult it into some kind of service project for other people. That's not going to work. I can, with absolute integrity in myself, speak the way that I do because I live what I'm talking about. And in the returning to care for myself that I didn't know was possible and didn't think I was allowed to do, it allowed me to feel the truth that I actually do care about everybody else. But not from a place of like, I'm little and I'm horrible and I'm bad, and therefore I have to care for other people to get my value. But that naturally caring for myself means that I can't help but give a fuck about everybody else's shelter, everybody else's safety, everybody else's access to food and water, and being with the people that they care about, whether I agree with them or not. But actually being like, people who don't have access to this understanding, the only question I have is, what happened? Because something happened. That is the only possible explanation. It is the only thing. There is a root reason for somebody to do harm to others that isn't just the thing that you see. There's something happened. I know that because something happened to me.
Yes. Wow. So I am, in a way, a part of myself is relieved the skill sets can be learned. Now, there's people that won't have these, not even these grace, right? Like, I'm thinking of the people in Gaza. I mean, the least thing that if I put myself in the shoes of a mother there or someone, the least thing I will be thinking is of skills. But I feel me that I'm here talking to you in a nice computer.
Crisis situations that they are in, some of these skill sets are coming to the surface because they are innate in all of us. And in a crisis situation, you can believe that there are people caring. There are people pausing and responding. There are people, especially holding complexities and nuances, caring about every single person, showing up in ways. These skill sets are all over any crisis place, but they're not things that people think about. They're already living them because the situation requires it for survival.
Yes, absolutely. And what I feel, I have a moral responsibility to learn this, to develop them in me, to become a little better human for my neighbor, for my children, and to do whatever I can right now.
Hopefully, to just become it. We can always become better at a skill set, right? But we don't need to be better as people.
as people, right?
No, who you are does not need to be fixed.
That's
That's what I
beautiful.
really want. That's so important. You don't need to be a better person, but you can get really good at some skill sets.
Yes, at the skill sets that will
And skill
support
sets give
my own
you
journey.
a
Yeah,
sense of being real. That's the best way I can say that.
that I think that said it all. So, anything else, Shanti? I'm going to have you back so we can really. I want to deconstruct blame, shame, and guilt, and from there play the
I
skill
think
sets.
if I could offer to anybody right now is we are all in this together. Do not isolate yourself. Reach out. Even if you only know one person, two people, reach out. Be with others right now. Connect to other human beings. Find the care that exists in your life. And if you can't find it in the people and the humans around you, go out into nature. Lay on the earth. Hug a tree. Find that place where you feel I belong here with everybody else. Whether I like what's happening or not, I belong here with everybody else.
You know the truth. Wow, Shanti, thank you so much. And I think this is just really touching a little bit of a surface of a conversation that has to go deeper, that can go deeper, actually, not that has to, but that can go deeper. And within us and without, I'm staying with the feeling of the internal violence, how it plays external violence. I'm already going through, my words, my thoughts. And it's an incredible, these skill sets, they
And
do.
so many people try to solve external violence, which is also important. We should have checks and balances and consequences for those things, but humane ones. Like that's a whole other conversation. It's just that the internal, we have been violated for so long that we think internal violence is normal.
The normalization of all of these, 100%. It's not normal, and as you said, with blame, shame, and guilt is not needed. Whether we get in that space soon in these generations, which I don't think so, but hopefully in a couple of more generations, we'll be able to at least have honed these skills in a way that we genuinely care for others. And I love what you said to people, rest, hug a tree, reach out, be with people. I think that's the most important thing in my perspective.
We are biologically wired when we are hurting to reach out for other people.
Mm.
And many of us have experiences of doing that and being horrifically harmed and hurt. And we need to start making those connections. Be discerning about the people you reach for, but reach for other people.
Yes. Amen.
Reach for each other.
Yes. Yes. Shanti, thank you so much for stopping. So, we were talking yesterday, Shanti and I, and literally it was like, can you come tomorrow? Because these conversations are needed. They are really helpful for one another to be able just to express without fighting one each other's our beliefs and everything, and just settle and have each other's, support and respect and inclusion. And inclusion in these times. Thank you, Shanti, so much. And I will put again every single way for you to contact Shanti if so you choose. And we're going to see you next time, and we're going to have Shanti back. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Shanti. Les mandamos un beso a todos. Adiós. We hope you enjoyed this new episode, and if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere where you prefer to listen to your podcast. Make sure to check the links to everything we mentioned in this episode. For more news, future or past episodes, or for any other inquiry, please visit our website at delaflorteachings.com. Once again, thank you for listening to the Spirituality Now podcast.